Hello, world. Welcome to Queering Science, Theology, Philosophy, and Spirituality. This is the LGBTQ Center for Science, Theology, Philosophy, and Spirituality. And today we're creating a new playlist saying, which will be called the playlist of concepts. And today we want to deal with the concept of free speech. And this couldn't have come at a time as this when uh, for the first time ever since the reign or era of Donald Trump began, that the Democrats and Republicans united together to come up with a hate speech law. So we're going to go through that, and then we're also going to go through in sync with Donald Trump declaring that he's going to sign an order to allow free speech. So we're going to discuss these concepts and the concept of speech primarily, because you have to understand speech is one of the most important human concepts in science, in theology, in philosophy, and spirituality. Because without speech, there would be no Bible. The Bible is also called the Word of God, meaning the speech of God. You see? So we are controlled by speech. The laws of a country are the speeches of the country. That's what you need to know. Every law is spoken. Every law is a word, and every word is spoken. That's why the Hebrews or the Jews, Hebrews is the old name for Jews, the Jews had the written Torah and the oral Torah. The written Torah and the oral Torah. There is no difference between writing and speaking, because they all have words. So the freedom of speech is very powerful, because animals do not speak in verbal languages, in written languages. That's what you need to know. It's very powerful. And as I told you, without speech, if there was no speech, there would be no religion. If there was no speech, there would be no religion. There would be no philosophy, as we know it. There would be no theology. Actually, not religion. Theology would not be there. Discussions about God. And that's what we've been doing. All right, so let's go to the news and look at all of these titles. This is a sham. Why did 23 Republicans vote against condemning hatred? Let's go to the Washington Post. And why did 23 Republicans vote against condemning hatred and bigotry? After a week of brutal infighting over how to best respond to allegations of anti-Semitism, Democrats on Thursday presented a compromise that seemed unlikely to offend anyone: a resolution condemning bigotry and hateful expressions of intolerance. Then, in an unexpected turn of events, 23 Republicans decided to vote against it. Doing so put them in an awkward position. While their explanations varied, many criticized Democrats for not doing more to rebuke Republican Ilhan Omar, the Democrat representative of Minnesota, whose remarks criticizing supporters of Israel were seen by some as anti-Semitic, sparking the uproar that prompted the crafting of the resolution. So these Republicans refused to vote, as you can see Chip Roy is saying, because he felt like the Democrats didn't want to deal with a rogue member. So they decided to have a vote to cover them dealing from them. So later the document grew to be 7 pages long as the denunciations of white supremacy were added, along with the mentions of discrimination historically faced by African Americans, Native Americans, Latinos, Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, Hindus, Sikhs, the LGBT community, and immigrants. I support this resolution because they added everybody in it. Now, what else did they write? Originally, the resolution had only expressed opposition to anti-Semitism, but condemnations of anti-Muslim bigotry were added after critics began pointing out that Omar, a Muslim woman, had experienced prejudice too. And then that's how the document grew. The beautiful document. In history, this will go as a very important thing. These guys made a resolution that was to deal with anti-Semitism. And that's why that Republican is also wrong. He just wanted to hate. It was only to deal with anti-Semitism. Then they said no. Even Muslims are hated. So they added anti-Muslim condemnations of anti-Muslim bigotry. Then they said no. Why don't we just deal with every form of bigotry? And that included denunciations of white supremacy. So basically, this was a resolution fighting white supremacy. Yes. And then with other mentions of the historic discrimination faced by African Americans, Native Americans, Latinos, Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, Hindus, Sikhs, the LGBT community, and the immigrant community. So brilliant resolution. And you see, it happened when Ilhan just decided to criticize Israel. And that was what it had to be solved. Now, and Omar ultimately voted in support of the resolution. Congratulations. Yes, Omar should stand strong. I know her backyard will be like, excuse me, Israel is the enemy. But she had to do it. Yes, because you can't claim that you are attacked by Islamophobes, then you want to attack Israel. There is no difference between an Islamophobe and an anti-Semite. They are the same. They hate. There's no difference between a racist, a white racist, and a homophobe, a black homophobe. There is no difference. They hate. So Omar is wise. Yes. If you don't want hate, then don't hate. It's the golden rule. Yes. If you don't want hate, then don't hate. So Ilhan had to sign and support the resolution. And the only dissenting votes came from the Republicans. No, it's not weird. It's not weird. It was going to happen. Reason, Republicans, this, if you want to look at it even philosophically and symbolically, this is the sign of where the vestiges of white supremacy are hiding. And they hate. Look, Democrats, all of them voted for it. All. So they are forgiven. Congratulations to the Democrat Party. Congratulations. That is the party that should lead the country. Yes, immediately they have dealt with hate. They are working hard at clearing hate in their system. But the Republicans have work. That is a very dangerous sign. Yes, it's a very dangerous sign. You have to deal with that hatred. Because if you can't sign to that, that means you are allowing anti-Semitism, you are allowing Islamophobia, you are allowing homophobia, you are allowing... Yes, this is big news. Thank you, Washington Post, for raising this issue. As the Washington Post, Mike DeBonis, Felicia Somnes, and John Wagner reported, Representative Peter T. King and others objected to the wording that encourages law enforcement to avoid conduct that raises the specter of unconstitutional or Republican, profiling based on factors like religion and race. Meanwhile, Chris Collins voted against the resolution because he felt that it didn't go far enough in expressing support for Israel. No, Chris Collins didn't understand. It was not a resolution to say that they support Israel. It was a resolution to curb hate speech. Yes, that's what we need to see, and we'll read the resolution in a few bits. These are just petty excuses, so we won't focus on them. Yes, we won't focus. We will not focus on them. Yes, that's why Elon should not be afraid that some fundamentals will say that you're betraying us. No, it's not about... It's serious. Speech is very important. It's what led to the killing of Jews and gays in Germany. It was speech. It was speech that led to the murder of 6 million people. Nothing else. Now, leave alone Nazi Germany. Protestants were killed because of speech. Nothing else. Jesus Christ was killed because of speech. Martin Luther King was killed because of speech. Mahatma Gandhi assassinated because of speech. Yitzhak Rabin assassinated because of speech. Yes, the Oslo Agreement was a speech of peace. That's what you need to know. All right. Wow. All right, let's finish now. After days of handwritten Democrat handwriting, hand wringing. So I want us to look at the text of the resolution. Anti-hate speech resolution. There is a full text, Times of Israel, you see. Israel knows the importance of that text. Okay, here's a text. Okay, condemning anti Semitism as hateful expressions of intolerance that are contradictory, to the values and aspirations that define the people of the United States, and condemning anti Muslim discrimination and bigotry against minorities as hateful expressions of intolerance that are contrary to the values and aspirations of the United States. So, this was the purpose of the resolution. It was to condemn anti Semitism as hateful expressions of intolerance that are contradictory to the values of the people of America, and also condemning anti Muslim discrimination, and also condemning bigotry against minorities. Yes, very important. Very important. So you need to understand there is no attack. It's not about necessarily supporting Israel, but it is actually protecting Israel. Yes. It's not about supporting, it's about protecting Israel and protecting Muslims and protecting minorities. Yes, that's what it is. And it's okay. Yes, it's okay. Protect. As I've told you, Jews were killed because of speech. They can't sleep when they hear that there's somebody who wants to kill them. They can't. You have a story, not even 100 years have passed since the Nazi Holocaust. Not even 100 years. That's what you need to know. Aftershocks. We are going through the aftershocks of anti-Semitism that began in the 19th century. Yes, it has never died down. When you read the 19th century and the early 20th century, there was a wave of nationalism. Actually, I think I'm going to write about it. When nationalism began rearing its ugly head all over the world. Yes. World War I, nationalism caused it. World War II, nationalism. World War III will be nationalism. Yes. And that's what happened. Hitler was a nationalist. He valued the Aryan race, the Aryan nation. And he called the other nations Sunta. Suntermenschen, meaning lower subhuman. And he called his nation Obermenschen, the Superman. Very dangerous strain of nationalism. Okay, so we just wanted to see the text and how it was going. Of course, we're not going to read all of it, and we're just going to look at this. It's even mentioning LGBT community. Thank you. Hindus. Look, whereas the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. taught that persecution of any American is an assault on the rights and freedoms of all Americans. Look at that. Of any American. That is why we love Dr. Martin Luther King. He was not a racist. He wanted everybody to be accorded their rights. That included black people, and that included LGBTQ persons. And here, now they have mentioned the self-identified neo-Confederates, white nationalists, neo-Nazis, and Ku Klux Klan men held white supremacist events in Charlottesville, where they marched on a synagogue under the Nazi swastika, engaged in racist and anti-Semitic demonstrations, and committed brutal and deadly violence against peaceful Americans. Very important. You see what was happening? Anti-Semitic demonstrations. And it's not, I'm telling you, this has not been happening. It has been happening for 200 years. It hasn't stopped. Yes. It hasn't. I'm telling you. So this was a text, and it was trying to bring up the stories. Even Tree of Life Synagogue, they have mentioned it. Yes, it hasn't stopped. It's because anti-Semitism has been an ideology in the world for thousands of years. That's what you need to know. It's the saddest truth. Yeah, it's the saddest truth. Thousands of years. But let's bring hope. How do you bring hope? This is how you bring hope. This is how you bring restoration. This document should be taught in school all over America and teach the children that we are now a new America whereby we do not attack, dehumanize, demonize, or stereotype people. Yes, the world is changing. I'm very happy. You know, I'm more happy than sad these days because we are taking conscious steps to change the world, to make it a better place without forcing someone to change. You don't need to convert a person. You just need to explain to them human rights. Human rights is the golden rule. That's all. Yes. Human rights is the golden rule. That's what we LGBTQ persons want. Give us our rights to be who we are. Yes. We're not attacking anybody that yours because you're straight we hate you. No. Give us our rights. It's as simple as that. It's a golden rule. So very many things are going to change. Now we're going to do another thing. So this was a text and they're talking about the Jews. Very beautiful. Actually, I'm going to read it very well. If you want to know, of course, as I've told you, sadly, the real truth is that anti-Semitism has been in the world for thousands of years. That's the sad truth. But the happy truth is we are able to change attitudes towards different persons through education, having a multifaceted education that fosters and allows people to understand the each other, reforming religion. You know, we have to make people know the Bible, Quran, Bhagavad Gita. Don't take those books seriously. Yes, don't take them seriously. Yes. That is my stance. I know, even if I'm alone with it, don't take it seriously. You are not there. Just read them like stories. That's what you need to do. So this is a very good document to read. I'm going to read it very well, and if possible, save it as on PDF. Now, that's what I wanted to see. Then another weird thing happened this week. Donald Trump gave free speech. So I was like, it's a very weird week. You see, the real reason Trump is pushing for a free speech order on college campuses. So he also did that. Look at these guys. I like the American media. They really go for Trump. And it's understandable. Yes, I know it. I'm not, because this is how I have changed in my political discourse. I don't fear saying anything, my point of view. That's the first thing. That's why I respect these media companies. I just laugh at how they really want to deal with him. So I respect that. It's just so humorous, but it's serious. On the serious side, they know what they're saying, because journalists are like prophets of old. They are critiques. And so that's what I'm saying about Donald Trump. I don't support his transphobia or homophobia. Yeah, you know, this is the third year and he's still not recognizing LGBTQ persons. And that's sad. And yes, that's what I'm not happy about with Donald Trump. I still said on Twitter, I tweeted to him, it's there. I told him you'd rather listen to scientists than anybody else. Yeah. So now let's read the Chicago Tribune. It says Trump vows executive order to protect campus speech, free speech, but critics including University of Chicago president call it a dangerous move. So let's read through this and then we are done with the video. So President Trump proposed executive order to protect free speech on colleges and campuses. And this is why we're doing this news item. It's very important. It's not that we're attacking Trump. No. It's a very important issue all over the world. Yes. It's very important. And so President Trump now wants to protect free speech because conservatives were complaining about the silencing of their voices and being disinvited in very many campuses. Yes, there's something happening in America that is a bit sad. There is a war. Actually, I want to declare there is a cultural war in America and it's getting very hot. The proof of cultural war is deaths, murders based on those cultural wars. That's what you need to understand. And that's what's happening. Even violent assault. Like what happened to Jussie Smollett, don't look at it like, it was just, he faked it. No. That is what, someone is pushing that narrative to tell you that gays are not being attacked. They are attacked. In fact, transgenders, have you noticed something? There are few deaths that have happened so far. Let's hope it remains like that. Yes. That's what I'm telling you. When you see deaths and violent assaults, it is a cultural war taking place. So that's what I see in America. And that's why Trump is now dealing with free speech. Yes, it's because, look at it on YouTube. It is disaster. People are fighting each other for different ideologies, especially the right and the left. And like I was just watching, what prompted me to do this video is the video I watched on Rubin Report about free speech. And I was like, wow, this is what's happening. Yes, it's very important. And people may think that, but that's America. No, it's the whole world. Already in Africa, there are countries in Africa that ban people from posting things without permission from the government. Or if they have to have a blog, they have to pay. Do you know what that means? That locks poor people from expressing themselves on social media. Immediately they have gone. I have friends, we used to chat, they no longer chat. They can't hack that life of paying money to be online. It has already happened in Africa. So what are you saying, that we can't talk about free speech? We will talk about it. It is a very important thing. So the president of the University of Chicago, Robert Zimmer, has a frequent champion of free speech, countered that it would give federal officials dangerous authority to interfere in campus speech issues. So Zimmer is a champion of free speech, but is afraid that this directive may lead to interference of campus speech issues. So he hasn't made the order, but they are doing the groundwork for that. And Jeff Sessions already said it's time to stand up to the bullies on campus and in our culture. And yes, to be optimistic, what's going to happen what I can predict going to happen, we will be doing very formal debates. Yes, very formal debates. Conservatives will be allowed to come and discuss, and liberals will also be allowed to discuss. Right now, the problem that's happening in the campuses in America is when they know you are a conservative, they even can stone you and, attack you violently. That's what's happening in America. And then when you're a liberal and you go to a conservative university, they also do the same. So that's what's happening. Now, we are going back to the Greek system of philosophical debate and dialectics. So when the Greeks used to do that, in fact, what should happen to free speech spaces, intellectual spaces, they should go back and read the history of Greece and how the philosophers, how a country filled with rich ideologies, because of how they debated. Everybody was given time to talk. Plato did not agree with Aristotle in very many things. Socrates, or Socrates as they call him, did not agree with Plato in certain things, but he wrote his position. He gave his position. So that's what people need to understand. So the problem we're having today is there is no decorum in discussion. There is no etiquette. People are just fighting each other. It's because of emotions. And then secondly, it's because of the economics. Yes, it's the economic situation. People come with stress. They are coming to argue. You see, in Greece was very peaceful. It was an empire. So they were not scared about life. I mean, read Act 17. The philosophers were just seated. They were not every day. That was their life. They were just seated there. And it's not that it's not happening today. People go to the bars, they talk and everything. But what was not there that is there today is the university culture, the campus culture. That's what was not there. So that's why we're seeing problems right now. It's because the campus culture, you see, in the ancient times, if you liked a philosopher, you went to his school. Do you know what has happened to Paul? In fact, the story in Acts is the best. When Paul went to the synagogue in Ephesus and he preached his ideology of Christianity, there was war in the synagogue. Acts chapter 16. And then after that, what he did is he took his followers to a special school, and a guy called Tyrannus had a school, and that's where he was teaching people for 3 years, just like Jesus. He took 3 years to teach those people. So what did he do? He took those who liked what he was saying and he taught them. Now it's just like YouTube. YouTube, we have very many channels. Some people are saying things totally different from what I'm saying. Others are saying other things. So you become a subscriber, meaning you follow that teacher. That's how you go. That's how it is on YouTube. So on YouTube it's not a problem. But in the campuses, it is still like the synagogue in Ephesus, whereby there were mixed people who agree with you and people who don't agree with you. So that's what's happening in the campuses in America. They are all like the synagogue at Ephesus, where Paul was preaching. So what is supposed to happen in the campus is most people will stay away from They will follow the leader. Like if you hear that this great philosopher, modern day philosopher, I'm trying to get his name. Okay, let's go for Noam Chomsky. That's the easiest I can get now. Noam Chomsky comes to a university, he can go and give a lecture and do what? And even if he hears disagreements, he will answer them very well in decorum. So basically, you have to create an atmosphere of etiquette. Yes, of etiquette. And Jesus was also a walking mobile school, and his opponents also asked him questions. That's why the Bible is also a philosophical book, because they used to attack his philosophy and ask him questions. That's what I'm telling you. And in fact, you know, the easiest way to kill debate is science. You notice we are a LGBTQ Center for Science, Theology, Philosophy, and Spirituality. Why am I not talking about LGBTQ sciences? It's because it's done. The science is there. I don't even need to talk about gay sex. It's done. It's the science is there. It's only an ignorant person who will still insist to fight with me, discussing that LGBTQ persons don't exist. They exist. Give us our rights. Simple. Prove existence. Are we there? Yes. Then get your rights. So you see that one. That's why I don't do videos so much about LGBTQ issues, though I know LGBT issues. It's because it's already done. We've won. The science is on our side. So, but I'm discussing on issues that have not been proved. You see, God has not been proved to exist. Yes. I'm telling you, even if you feel the power of the Holy Spirit or God, you speak in tongues, that is not proof that that is the God. It's just a sign there are higher powers. There's something weird. We can't explain it. We just know we have it. You know, like that song I played about Andre Crouch. I've got the power of the Holy Ghost. And I know, how does it start? I played it recently. I can't, yes, something about the power of the Holy Ghost. I can't explain it, but I've got it. Just because I've got it doesn't mean I can explain it. You see, that's what I'm saying. So because of that, we will always have discussions. That's why things like philosophy and theology, oh my God, if you want to sleep and wake up talking, just be in those two arenas. You will do that. Wake up tomorrow morning, look at me. When I have free time, I talk about philosophical subjects because they have not been proved. So they disturb my mind. So that's why I talk. Look at Manly P. Hall. He has immense volumes. Yes, because every nation, every culture was writing about higher powers, but they didn't know what to call them. So some said, we'll call this power God. Others said, we'll call it Yahweh. Others said, we'll call it Zeus. Others said, we'll call it Brahma. Others said, we'll call him Shiva. Others said, we'll call it Chineke. Others said, we'll call it Moari. Others said, we'll call it Isis. You see, they just knew there were powers, but they don't know. None of them can prove, because God has not come down from heaven to tell us that his name is Bubu. You know, and they're telling us, you guys were wrong. My name is actually Bubu. He hasn't come. So because he hasn't come, you can say God is anything. And then whoever supports you, if you support that God is Ishtar, you will become an Ishtarite. If you support that God is Yahweh, you become a Yahwehist. That's all we are. and that's the world forever, until these powers come and tell us who they really are. Okay, so basically Zima is saying that the president should be a bit careful about that. And Trump is a conservative, so he's trying to protect the conservatives from the attacks they're getting in campuses. But I'm telling people, and I'm telling everybody, as we end this video, we're just talking about free speech and how it coincided. Trump's plan to do free speech as free speech order coincided with the Democratic led resolution against hate speech, and it coincided for a very good reason. It was a time for, and you see where the problem is in the conservative wing, because how could they not sign to that resolution? It's unbelievable. They were supposed to sign. I'm telling you, this resolution is historic. We should even shout about it. It's historic. It should be put in the textbooks of the children immediately. Yes, immediately. Because they need to be taught that text like that, and understand that you cannot attack anybody because of who they are. This is the best identity politics resolution to be made in the world so far. America has solved that problem with that resolution. Thankfully, even if those 23 Republicans opposed, too bad, they didn't win. So it's okay. It is passed, and they have to submit to that resolution. So as I conclude, speech is very much important, and that's why we are going through a lot of upheaval in the philosophical and political world when it comes to speech. Even there's a constitutional earthquake happening in many countries, because social media, that is a platform of free speech, has really transformed the landscape. Like an earthquake, earthquakes can have power to change the landscape. You saw what happened in Kenya, Suswa, the crack, the fault that is said is going to split Kenya in thousands of years to come. Kenya will no longer be part of Africa. It will be an island, thanks to the Suswa crack. So you see the power of earthquakes. They can change landscapes. And one great earthquake was the social media earthquake. It changed everything. It changed even constitutions, because now many people are curtailing free speech because of the abuse. So there's free speech, then there's abuse of free speech. So that's what people need to understand. That's why anti-Semitism, when you have an anti-Semitic speech, like Karl Marx wrote about Jews and it was anti-Semitic. Same to Martin Luther, the German, not the American. And that was before the Nazi Holocaust. Believe you me, if those guys were alive and they saw the Holocaust, they would even ban what they wrote. So what does that mean? It means that events are also earthquakes, and they can change the landscape of society, the social landscape. You see what happened in 9/11? The social landscape changed. The earthquake happened. The social landscape, the social earthquake, the social quake happened, and America said enough is enough. We are going to put the Patriot Act, and we are going to mass surveillance on the citizens. Security all over the world has changed because of 9/11. So what am I trying to say? There are earthquakes, social earthquakes, economic earthquakes, political earthquakes, religious earthquakes that change the landscape. And some of them don't, others do. This one of social media has really changed the planet. And that's why we're having these issues of free speech. Governments are trying to curtail it, but for a good reason. Like this one of the America, I've liked it. That one is good because whenever he mentions free speech, if you are a Jew, you get a bit scared because you feel like, ooh, the Nazis are going to wake up. Neo-Nazis are going to wake up and start talking about us and saying all of these things. So that's why it has to be. That's why free speech has to be controlled. Now, the beauty of what is happening in the world now is free speech is being allowed, but there's hate speech to curtail, to claw back. And I want to just look at one constitution and then we can go. There's the clawback clauses. Clawback in the constitution. Clawback provisions and legal. Let's read the African Charter on Human Rights. I like that is closer to. Oops, it is. Okay, let's just open it up irrespective of it being a PDF file. So clawback clauses. Alternatively, I want us to read from a constitution. I've read the Kenyan constitution and Ugandan constitution. So those are the constitutions I can talk about. Let's go to the Ugandan constitution. It's easy. I can remember. The photographic memory is easier for me to remember where there is. So this is the constitution of Uganda, and so you can see the government is going to give fundamental rights. I think it was 30 something, article 30 something, article 42. Oops, sorry, I've gone too far. And then we'll be done. I want to show you what it means to have free speech at the same time hate speech. Hate speech is a clawback. It's controlling free speech. It is telling you, you know what? You are free to say anything, but you're not free to attack a person's identity. And these are the persons you're not supposed to attack. Anybody. Actually, anybody. You should not use speech. In fact, it is actually dealing with ad hominem. That resolution has killed ad hominem. Now you don't attack anybody because of who they are. Yes. All right. Yes, what I mean by ad hominem, calling someone bad, evil, like what they call Jews, you guys are destroying the country. That's ad hominem. Where is the evidence? These days when I talk to people, don't tell me that I've done something or I'm bad and you have no evidence. You bring it. Yes, no time for pity parties that are based on no evidence. Okay, sorry about that. This getting this article is a bit hard, but I think if I can remember, it was article 40. Okay, it was article 42 or 46. Let's hope it is. Right to access. Yes, this is the one. Article 43. General limitation on fundamental and other human rights and freedoms. In the enjoyment of the rights and freedoms prescribed in this chapter, no person shall prejudice the fundamental or other human rights and freedoms of the others or the public interest. Public interest of this article shall not permit political persecution, detention, or trial. So this is what I'm saying. There's a general limitation on fundamental and other human rights and freedoms. Yes, you are free, but that freedom can be limited. That's what you need to understand. That freedom can be limited. So you can have free speech is okay, but there's no absolute free speech. Even in the arguments we had with our friend, discussion we had with our friend P3 Gaming, he gave a good point about what Einstein said, that there are no absolutes. Yes, there is no absolute freedom. There is no absolute all of that. So because of that, you limit those freedoms. Because some people, if you give people absolute freedom, they will abuse the freedom. It's like you know why the French monarchy collapsed? It was absolute. The king could do anything. That was a country where they got this phrase, the king is always right. And look what happened. He was even chopped. His head was chopped off. You see, he wasn't right. He wasn't right because his economic decisions were wrong. So that's what you need to understand about absolution. As absolutionism is not there. There is nobody perfect. Yes, that's why we control speech with these laws. So now when I go to a university and I speak and I go and maybe attack a Muslim or a Christian, in that discussion they can tell me, please keep quiet, because if you go on like that, you'll not be invited. There'll be some form of punishment. So you see, that's how now free speech is going to be contained. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Know that we have freedom, but it's limited by laws in our country. And as long as those laws are not bad, because there are some laws, there are some countries which are too bad in controlling speech, which is wrong. It's totally is undemocratic. But what America has done to protect identities is okay, because that's how you're supposed to deal with free speech. What you do with free speech, just remove ad hominem attacks, and that's what the Democrat Party has done. And not only the Democrat Party, even the US Congress, they have passed that resolution. So congratulations to them for that, for throwing away ad hominem, because this was what was happening both on the right and the left. Yes, you know, people attack Trump because they don't like him, he's bad, he's done what? No, attack him based on his policies, ideology. Like, see the Washington Post article? Yeah, that's how you attack Trump. Ideologically, don't go for the person. So with time, people are going to change their speech forms and their decorum and their etiquette. So in 50 years, we'll be very good at arguing. We'll go back to the days of Plato and Socrates, when we argue with decorum and etiquette.